minor league. Operates around the pick. Kyla Charles fires. Book it. The Wings have...
The baby's cries sliced through the pressurized cabin like a shrill alarm at 30,000 feet, growing sharper and more frantic with every passing minute as 26-year-old Lisa Rodriguez bounced her 8-month-old son, Miguel, in trembling arms, her cheeks burning with a mixture of exhaustion, embarrassment, and the silent judgment radiating from passengers around her who shifted in their seats, sighed dramatically, or cast sharp glances in her direction. She had already been traveling for 14 punishing hours, journeying from Los Angeles to Indianapolis with a draining layover in Chicago, carrying everything she owned in 2 battered duffel bags, believing, no, praying, that the job interview waiting for her would finally be the fragile doorway out of the poverty that had shaped every moment of Miguel's short life. It felt almost cruelly ironic that in a world where all anyone wants is to reach their destination, a mother simply trying to secure her child's survival could become a target for cold impatience and whispered criticism from strangers who had no understanding of what it meant to live each day balancing fear, hope, and sheer determination. What unfolded on that April afternoon would prove that sometimes compassion reveals itself in the most unexpected moments, proving that angels are not always winged beings descending from the heavens. Occasionally, they are ordinary people who choose, in a single decisive moment, to stand up when everyone else sits in judgment. The recycled cabin air, thick with hints of stale coffee, disinfectant, and human frustration, seemed to press down on Lisa as she sat trapped in the middle seat of row 23, wedged tightly between a businessman whose constant watch-checking grew increasingly theatrical and an elderly woman whose tooting had become a metronome of disapproval. Miguel, exhausted and overstimulated after the long journey, had been fussy since boarding in Chicago, his tiny body jerking with sobs, unable to settle. Lisa's arms ached from holding him, her shoulders stiff, her back cramped into an unnatural curve as she tried desperately to soothe him, while the sharp sting of other passengers' murmured complaints cut through her fragile composure. Why bring a baby if you can't control it? Unbelievable. Some of us paid good money for this flight. Each remark landed like a blow, feeding the familiar swirl of shame and helplessness. But not one of those passengers knew the truth hidden beneath her apologetic smile, that Lisa was not just traveling for a job interview. She was fleeing a life that had nearly destroyed her. 3 months earlier, she had finally found the courage to leave Miguel's father after a violent episode that had left bruises she had concealed under long sleeves and foundation, afraid of what people might ask if they saw the truth. Since then, she had been living in a women's shelter in Los Angeles, juggling 2 part-time jobs, saving every possible dollar in the hope of building a safer life. The interview in Indianapolis, an opportunity to work as a medical assistant at a community clinic, was more than just employment. It was a lifeline, a stable income, health insurance, and the faint promise of a secure home. She had spent her last $300 on plane tickets, taking a gamble because she believed she owed Miguel at least the chance of a different future. She had risen at 4 that morning, fed Miguel, packed their few belongings, traveled across the city by bus and train because she couldn't afford a taxi, and navigated security while balancing a wriggling baby and fraying nerves. By the time they boarded the first flight, Miguel was overtired, and by the time they were crammed into row 23 of the second flight, he was inconsolable. Lisa had tried everything. Feeding him, changing him in the cramped, turbulence-shaking toilet cubicle, pacing the aisle with him until the flight attendants instructed her firmly to remain seated. Nothing soothed. Passengers' glares and muttered frustrations wrapped around her like a tightening rope. When the businessman beside her snapped, his voice cutting through the cabin, "Can't you do something about that baby? Some of us are trying to work." Lisa felt tears sting her eyes. She looked down at her red-faced, trembling son, whose exhausted sobs told her that he, too, had reached his limit. She whispered a shaky apology, though she knew no apology could express the weight she carried. The fear of starting over, the exhaustion from escaping violence, the loneliness of being judged for certain...
Hartley wiggling in traffic. Lindsay Allen in the ballgame with 4. Hartley open. Rebound Charles for 2.
Lisa whispered an apology, her voice barely audible beneath Miguel's cries, insisting she was trying everything she could, though in truth she felt moments away from breaking down completely. unaware that in her most vulnerable moment someone 3 rows ahead was about to change the course of her life. That someone was Caitlin Clark, who had been attempting to focus on game footage on her tablet while traveling back to Indianapolis after a team meeting in Los Angeles, preparing mentally for an upcoming playoff series, yet unable to ignore the escalating distress behind her. Unlike the other passengers whose annoyance had steadily grown, Caitlin felt a tug of empathy for the young mother desperately cradling her son, a feeling rooted in memories of her own family's struggles and the times when strangers' kindness had helped them through difficult chapters. When she heard the businessman snap harshly at Lisa, something resolute stirred within her. She unbuckled her seatbelt and rose with the calm authority of someone well accustomed to leadership, turning to address the rows of irritated passengers with a voice that carried effortlessly over the cabin noise. She reminded them, firmly yet without aggression, that compassion should always precede judgment, especially when witnessing a mother doing her utmost in a challenging situation, and the sudden hush that fell over the cabin was a testament to how unexpected kindness can disarm even the most hardened critic. Making her way to row 23, Caitlin crouched beside Lisa, offering a gentle introduction and asking if she could help with Miguel. Overwhelmed, embarrassed, and teetering between gratitude and exhaustion, Lisa nodded, allowing Caitlin to take the baby into her arms. Caitlin immediately recognized the signs of a child past the point of exhaustion. His body rigid, his cries sharp with overstimulation, and instinctively began pacing the narrow aisle, rocking him gently, humming softly, and speaking to him about the clouds outside and the bravery he was showing on such a long journey. Within minutes, Miguel's cries quietened into whimpers, then faded altogether as his small body relaxed into sleep against Caitlin's shoulder, leaving the cabin in a stunned silence that slowly melted into relief. Yet Caitlin didn't simply return the sleeping baby and retreat. She remained with Lisa for the duration of the flight, holding Miguel when he stirred, fetching water and snacks from first class, and offering emotional reassurance that Lisa hadn't realized she desperately needed. During those precious minutes of calm, Lisa disclosed the story she had carried alone for so long. The abusive relationship she had escaped, the nights spent in a women's shelter, the 2 jobs she juggled to survive, and the job interview in Indianapolis that represented the fragile beginning of a new life. Caitlin listened without judgment, her admiration growing as she recognized the immense courage behind every choice Lisa had made. As the plane began its descent, Caitlin told her gently that what she had done, leaving a violent home, traveling across the country with almost no money, and fighting for stability for her son, was the true definition of strength, the kind of resilience that deserved respect rather than criticism. When they landed, Caitlin refused to simply walk away. She helped Lisa through the bustling airport, arranged a car to take her to her hotel, and ensured she had everything necessary for her interview the following morning. But her support went far beyond that day. When Lisa secured the position at the community health clinic, helped in part by a reference from Caitlin that the hiring manager immediately recognized, Caitlin continued to check in regularly, helping her find safe, affordable housing, connecting her with childcare resources, and becoming, unexpectedly, the steady presence Lisa had lacked for so many years. Over the next 6 months, Lisa blossomed in her new role, moved into a modest but secure flat, and began taking evening courses to advance her career in healthcare, while Miguel, now a cheerful toddler, thrived in the stability and warmth Lisa worked tirelessly to provide. It was astonishing to consider that a screaming baby on a plane had been the catalyst for such profound change, but their story became living proof that acts of courage and compassion, however small they may seem in the moment, can alter the trajectory of someone's entire life. Today, at 27, Lisa has been promoted to a supervisory role at the clinic and is studying to become a registered nurse, building a future she once feared she would never reach, while Miguel grows up in an environment filled with safety, routine, and love. And their story continues to resonate because it serves as a reminder that we rarely know the battles others are fighting, that a crying baby might belong to a mother carrying a world of unseen burdens, and that our reactions, compassionate or cruel, can either deepen someone's suffering or help pull them back toward hope. Caitlin and Lisa's bond remains a quiet testament